Last Sunday, we discussed love. And the Sunday after that, we discussed worship. And we tied those two together, that worship is incarnational love. Service to our neighbors as an outpouring of God's love for us to our neighbors, and therefore honoring God in worship. And we discussed how if we are not honoring God in true and proper worship, we can't honor God in any other way. We can't come to church enough, we can't sing songs enough. If there is not love in our hearts, it is all worthless. And we read specifically from Romans chapter 12. And I glossed over a term that I kind of touched on Sunday, but I want to see if you catch which term we're going to talk about today. So this is Romans chapter 12, and it reads this. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. If you guessed hospitality, you would be right. Today we're going to discuss hospitality and what does that term mean? For many of us, if you grew up in this area, you may think of hospitality as the hotel or the restaurant industry. If not, maybe you think about inviting your friends over for coffee or finger sandwiches, and you get out the good china, you clean your whole house, you spray some air freshener, and you just have people come over and you have a good time. Maybe that's hospitality to you. Maybe you sit in the dining room that you never sit in until you have guests over. Maybe that's hospitality for you. But what is biblical hospitality? We see here that the Apostle Paul is calling us to seek out and to perform hospitality to those in need. But what does that mean? Well, luckily, Paul doesn't leave us hanging for too long, because in the book of Hebrews, chapter 13, he gives us a little clue, a little hint into what hospitality is. So this is what he says in Hebrews chapter 13. He says this. He says, keep on loving one another as brothers and sisters. Keep on loving one another. There we go. We're back to love. Keep on loving one another like brothers and sisters. Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers. So we have love and hospitality again in the same sentence, in the same place. It says, for by doing so, people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. That's wild. Continue to remember those in prison as if you were together with them in prison. So suffer and mourn with those who are suffering and mourning. Now, if we go back to Romans 12, that's very similar to what the Apostle Paul was saying in Romans 12, where it says, weep with those who weep and rejoice with those who are rejoicing. And those who are mistreated as if you yourself were suffering. So just continuing that thought. To weep with those who are weeping, to rejoice with those who are rejoicing. That is hospitality. So we got to ask ourselves now, by that definition of biblical hospitality, we're starting to get this idea that hospitality, may be a little difficult. It's causing us to reach outside of ourselves. It's not bringing people into our lives that maybe we can sit around, have coffee with, and that's fun and it's easy, but rather to go and to be with those who are in prison as if we were in prison. That's a tall order. That's telling us to empathize with those who are in prison, those that are being mistreated. And you just expound this idea to those that are maybe outcasts. Just expound this idea to maybe those who are shunned by society, to go be with them as if we are also shunned by society, to go be with those who maybe are not financially wealthy or spiritually wealthy, those who are outside our circle of friends, those who maybe socioeconomically speaking we would normally not associate with, but in the spirit we understand that we are loved just as much as they are by God. Therefore, loving them like brothers and sisters, like we just read. And all of this goes back to what we read this Sunday in Isaiah chapter 1, where it says this. It says, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. Now we know that that is the crux of what Paul was talking about in Romans chapter 12. That is his calling, and what Jesus was talking about in Matthew chapter 15 that we went over on this Sunday when it comes to worship. Hospitality is love. Hospitality is seeking out those who are oppressed, seeking out those who are the outsiders, the widows, the fatherless, and going and being with them, empathizing with them, loving them. So friends, today, on this Thursday, or whenever you're watching this, I highly encourage you to seek out opportunities to be hospitable to those around you, those who you know, but especially those who you don't. Those who are on the outside of society, those who you, or maybe your friends, look down upon. We're all human. I'm human, you're human. And I know for a fact that there are people in your life that you would just rather avoid. Be hospitable to them. Weep with those who weep. Mourn with those who mourn. Rejoice with those who are rejoicing. Empathize. Show hospitality to those who you normally wouldn't. Because hospitality is simply love. And love and hospitality is true worship.